So when you skip the animation when Link eats food in Zelda, does that mean the food just warps directly into his stomach? And is that weird for him? Welcome to Triple Click, where we bring the quietly horrifying video game observations to you. We've got a mailbag this week, and we're answering your questions about indie game sales and long tails, how long games take to make, and what to do when games start to bleed into the real world. I'm Kirk Hamilton.
I'm Maddie Myers.
And I'm Jason Schreier. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, hello there.
Hello, my
It's
friends.
us again.
Yeah.
Welcome for
Back.
another week of Triple Click. We are back.
Another week.
All three of
We
us.
It is
Click,
Maddie's
click, click.
birthday. Happy birthday
It
to
is.
Maddie.
As we
Yeah, we're
record,
recording
it's my
this.
birthday.
Yes.
That's
You've
true.
already missed
So-
it if you're listening. You're too late.
You know what? I'll still take a happy birthday. I'll still
You'll
take an
still take
HDD. I'll accept it. I forgive you.
We are, as I'm sure many of you know, a listener-supported podcast, and that means that you are the only ones who pay for this show. We don't have any, and nobody owns this show but us, just the three of us. There's no corporate sponsors. There's no like venture capitalist vultures in here trying to bundle us to be sold as part of some brand package. Nothing like that. It's just me, Jason, and
I've always
Maddie.
wanted to be part of a brand package.
Yeah, I want to be
I have
bundled.
too. I really.
Me and like Honey Nut Cheerios.
You know, you
getting
start
bundles.
a small business in America with the dream of having that business be bought by venture capital and totally ruined so that somebody else can make a little bit of money. But we dream different. We dream different here at Triple Click. We dream of just making a show that we like and being able to make enough money making it that we can keep making it. And hey, that's exactly what we're doing. And it's thanks to all of you. And also thanks to Maximum Fun, our employee-owned network.
Worker co-op.
Our worker co-op network, Maximum Fun. And if you want to become a member of Maximum Fun, you can support the network, you can support all the shows on it, and you can support Triple Click. Go to MaximumFun.org/join and become a member. And thanks so much to all of our members. We really appreciate you. And to show that, we make bonus episodes every month for all of you. And there are a ton of those. If you go become a member, you can listen to like 37, 36 or something like that. Bonus episodes. Yeah. So there's a lot of extra stuff that you get as a little thank you. We have a couple of things coming up that I should let you know about. First of all, thanks to Jason tying our predictions bet last year with Maddie, we are playing through StarCraft II Legacy of the Void. And we're going to be talking about that next week on the July 20th episode. If you want to play some of that game, fire it back up. You probably already got it installed on your PC, right? So just fire it up, play a little bit, see if you remember any of the names and characters as they come at you fast and strong. I'll tell you that much.
Who could forget Kerrigan? I mean,
we're going to be talking about that. Not like the whole game. We'll be playing, like not the whole story, but just sort of some of the story.
some of us don't understand the
multiplayer.
story, so you don't have to worry about us spoiling it.
I'm really more
Some of us
interested
are
in talking
Jason.
about the game.
We're just going to talk about StarCraft. So if you want to play some StarCraft to just kind of get it back in your brain for next week, that's going to be for our July 20th episode. And we are actually also going to be streaming some StarCraft 2 the day after that on July 21st. That's next Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on our Twitch channel. There will be a link for that in the show notes. And come and hang out. We're going to be mostly, I think, watching Jason demonstrate his mastery, but we're going to be doing some fun stuff. We're figuring out what we're going to do, and it's going to be really cool. So that is Friday, July 21st at 8 p.m. On the Triple Click Twitch channel. There's a link for that down in the show notes. All right, we're answering some questions this week. We got some burning listener questions to get through. So Jason, why don't you dig into the mailbag?
Sure, yeah. So this is a Burning Questions episode. We are going to take some of your questions, and as always, you can reach us with your own questions at tripleclick@maximumfun.org. That is tripleclick@maximumfun.org. Send in your questions today. And remember, we like, just as a reminder for people, we like A, short ones, short emails, short questions are the best, and B, really weird questions, really unique questions.
Oh, we're not going to
Questions that we
say
probably haven't
interesting
heard before.
questions? You should just say interesting questions.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, interesting is a
Which
given.
really
but
leaves
also,
a lot open to interpretation.
yeah, things
so we're
that are
going with
unusual.
weird.
Let's get to some emails. Let's actually read one from a friend of the show. Kirk, you want to start off by reading this one?
Yeah.
Sure. This comes from a name that will be familiar to some of you, Ben Hansen of Min-Max fame. Lovely guy, Ben Hansen, friend of the show, writes in, and Ben writes, "Hello, Triple Click. I am so excited that Kirk is starting to watch Psychodyssey. I, like Jason, have watched it fully twice, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever seen. Both the events being documented in the documentary itself are unbelievable. Achievements bursting with messy human creativity." And just to interject here, if anyone doesn't know what Psychodyssey is, this is the Two Player Productions documentary, the 32-part documentary of the creation of Psychonauts 2 that you can watch for free on YouTube. That is fantastic, that I have actually just come to the very end of. I've watched the whole thing now, and Jason has watched multiple times.
I love how when you say 32 part, it sounds like you're making like a comic exaggeration, but no, that's actually what it is.
No, it's 32 parts, and there's a movie. there's a movie in the middle of it too. It's lengthy but very interesting. Back to Ben. Ben writes, "I am heartbroken that so many episodes still have fewer than 30,000 views. I hope you'll continue to draw attention to it. I would love to see a Beanscast episode on the bonus feed after Maddie watches it. There's so much to talk about." So that's kind of a nudge to Maddie. Maddie, it's time to watch it.
I know. I love Ben's assumption that I will watch it, and the social pressure happening as we speak. I do actually want to watch it.
Yeah, you did.
Read this
I don't think
email
it's an
from
assumption.
Ben, and
You
I
said
felt
that you
sad.
wanted to
I was
watch
like,
it.
we got to do this. We got to do a Beanscast so that I get this done.
Yeah. We have talked about that many times.
Yes.
To conclude Ben's message, he writes, "My dream would be to have Tim Schafer come on the show to talk about it and everything that's happened since. Again, there's just so much to unpack." He also made some pretty pointy comments in response to Jason's observations on the Min-Max roundtable. It would be great to hear a candid conversation and move that dialogue forward. Yeah, we'd love to have Tim on.
Yeah.
We've
Talking
interviewed
to
him
Tim
in the
is
past.
great.
Yes, he's a very fun guy to talk to and very open about all of that.
Yeah, I did like a one-on-one interview with him shortly after that, where he and I continued that conversation. But yes, and I wrote about it in Bloomberg. But yeah, that'd be fun. It'd be fun to have him.
Fun thing to share with
him
listeners. Ben concludes, "Grateful for the work that each of you do. Best wishes." Thanks so much, Ben. Thanks for writing in and being a cool dude and listening to our show.
Yeah.
Thanks, so
Ben.
we should do a Beanscast maybe at the end of this year. Maddie, it's really all on you finishing
I know.
it,
I
and then
gotta
we
just
can get
finish
into
it.
it.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Excellent. Okay, now let's get into some questions from our listeners. Maddie, take the first one.
Okay, this is from Matthew, who writes, "Hey, Maddie, Jason, and Kirk. I just read about the recent layoffs from the studio that made Season, a major indie release from earlier this year. Evidently, the game's poor sales in its first few months were catastrophic for the studio, such that they had to make massive cuts. Here's the thing. I decided to play Season the second I heard about it. Not even a question. But I haven't bought it yet because I'm busy." Emphasis Matthews. "I'm sure lots of others feel the same about this and basically every other game. It was honestly kind of surprising to me to learn that studios depend so desperately on the hope that people will play their game within weeks or months of its release. So my first question is this normal? Do indie studios routinely live and die based on tiny sales windows like this? And secondly, can a studio actually derive any financial benefit from the possibility of their game having a, quote, long tail, end quote, where people will continue to buy and play it in somewhat smaller numbers for several years after release? To your credit, I wouldn't have been remotely curious about business nonsense such as this without Triple Click. You're welcome, Matthew, for infecting your brain with knowledge."
So let me give you let me give you guys a little bit of context about this before we get into the question, which is that the studio is Scavenger Studio, is the name of this company that made Season. Their first game was a game called Darwin Project, which was like a free-to-play battle royale game. So
yeah, I remember that game.
That was popular. There were about 45 people at the studio, and they said that they've sold 60,000 copies of Season, and Season is kind of like a narrative, a slow contemplative narrative game that has gotten kind of mixed reviews. Yes, according to this Kotaku article, which interviewed the CEO, Amélie Lamarche, I'm butchering this French pronunciation, she said that they laid off all but 16 members of the studio. So they went from 45 to 16.
Wow.
So there's the context.
Significant cuts.
To answer, I think I can answer Matthew's question. I'm sure we all have enough people we've spoken to as reporters who make indie games that I know the answer is that it is very important for indie games to still sell during the first week of release. And I also just wanted to mention that I know a lot of indie game devs structure everything around sales as well, especially Steam sales, and being part of those bundles that happen on the Humble Bundle store, and sometimes Epic Games does deals. And those are major ways that indie games get discovered, is by being on those little scroll wheels, like the marketing scroll wheel when you open up a store. Like getting featured on Steam or in any type of sale on a storefront, I know is a huge deal for indie games, in much the same way that the release day is a huge deal for them, more so than any AAA game. I mean, I know we talk a lot about how AAA games also run at a loss here, but in these studios, it's like really, really make or break. And going viral matters a lot. But I mean, I want to hear from you two. I know you two know a lot about this too.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, Jason, you have this. There's the story of the Flame and the Flood developers. I feel
Yeah.
like that's a really interesting, maybe outlier, or is that an outlier?
Well, so the thing that really strikes me about this story is that the studio is 45 people.
Yeah.
That to me is crazy. That is humongous for an indie game studio that just put out like a kind of narrative niche game. So when I heard that number, I was like 60,000 copies. That actually seems pretty good for a game like this. It was on PC, it was on PlayStation. That like seems like a decent number. And then so if you do a little bit of number crunching here, and we're going to do some math that isn't quite accurate, but just for estimating sake, it looks like they sold this game at $30 on PlayStation. And so let's say 30 times 60,000, and not even forgetting all the cuts that the PlayStation Store takes or whatever. That's a gross revenue of $1.8 million, right? But when you have 45 people, a general burn rate calculation that people use, it's probably higher now, but at least a few years ago, the burn rate people used was $10,000 per person per month. That's like kind of an average burn rate people use. 45 people, that means you're spending $450,000 per month, right? And so 1.8 million, that might sound like a lot, but it's really just 4 months of that burn rate. And this is with fudge numbers, right? The actual revenue they're making is a lot less because you got to take 30% out of that for the PlayStation Store and discounts and whatever else.
Yeah,
and
because
then
like
the real
I said,
burn
the
rate
sales
is a
are
lot
usually
higher
how you
because
make
10,000. The real burn rate is a lot higher because the 10,000 a month isn't even that accurate anymore, because that was a few years ago calculus. So we're talking about kind of a burn rate that is really crazy, and it seems bonkers to me that a studio that just made this big successful free-to-play game then went on to make this kind of niche narrative thing and was expecting it to sell more than 60,000 copies. I would assume that if a studio that size is moving on to something a little more niche, then they have enough cushion with their previous game that could keep them running and like make sure they are able to make payroll even if their niche game doesn't go gangbusters and sell 1 million copies. So something seems weird to me with the kind of the grand decisions here, because yes, Kirk, to answer your question, a long tail can be super successful, like the Flame and the Flood, which I read about in Press Reset. That game was like that studio almost collapsed several times, the Molasses Flood, but they were able to keep going in part because of like long tail and a Switch release and stuff like that, which you kind of look forward to. But that was like 5 people max, right? So it's a totally different world. So yes, I think a long tail can support your studio, but like having to feed 45 mouths, that alone is just such a monumental task that it seems impossible with a niche game, and very difficult even with long tail stuff.
Yeah, that's the part that I would say isn't normal about Matthew's question, is that the studio was weirdly big for the size of game that it's perceived to be. But I do think it still matters to buy indie games on release. That's the main thing I hope people do take away, because I think that if you're interested in something and it's a smaller game, it makes a much bigger difference to buy that than it does for you to pre-order something that will sell a bajillion copies. Like that, you can maybe wait a week, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I think I see a lot of people say, I'll wait for a sale. And it's usually even a safer bet that you can wait for a sale or a humble bundle or something. And then a lot of these games, if they do kind of make it through that initial launch period, they then, like, it's a more common thing now to see these games get updated for free for a really long time. And then each update acts as a kind of new opportunity to market the game, and they sell a bunch more, and they can kind of keep going. Obviously, No Man's Sky is the most famous example of this, but there are plenty of games doing that now, and I really like that, just because it keeps games around for longer, and there isn't this feeling of like, they're moving on to the next thing, or they're releasing DLC that you have to buy that sort of changes the game and splits the player base. It's just like, nope, this game is just becoming itself more and more and more and more over the years, and more people have time to play it. Because I think one thing that Matthew mentioned in his message here is he's like, I didn't buy it yet because I'm busy. Like, I just don't have time. And that's it'd be nice if there could be a world where you didn't need people to all jump on it right now, because that's not the way people play video games, really. Like, a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, Outer Wilds. They talked about that all the time on Triple Click. And now in 2023, decide, okay, I'm going to play Outer Wilds, however many years later. Like, that's totally normal, and it'd be cool if the industry itself could support that a little bit better. But yeah, I do think that's a really good point, Maddie, that when an indie game comes out, if you think you're going to play it and you want to support the developers, buy it when it comes out. Like, just use your money that way, because it does actually, it's a helpful thing you can do with your money that is actually helpful.
Yeah. And you might be supporting like 2 people or 5 people as opposed to a whole lot of people.
To your point, Kirk, I think that it's something I've also learned selling books, is that like there are a bunch of different kind of bubbles of people. And one bubble is like the people who will pre-order your thing. They will buy it day one because they're really excited about it. And you have them. They're sold already, whatever it is. And then the next group of people, which I think is a much bigger kind of slice of the pie, is people who like are interested, but like might need some reminding to check it out. And I think, and that's why, like, you always see authors just constantly talking about their books, and especially in the months and the weeks following launch is also lunch. Is that like the kind of the putting it in your brain over and over makes people think like, oh yeah, I did want to get that, and that happens to me with books all the time, where I'm like reminded of the book, and I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to read that. Yeah, everything with games too, except for the games like in your head, like there's some games coming out this year you're gonna get on day one no matter what, but there are a few others where like maybe you're like, oh, that seemed interesting. Maybe if I hear enough people talk about it, I'll be like, oh yeah, I should check that out. And I think to your point, Kirk, I think that the updating thing and the continued patches and keeping your game relevant
Steam sales
for longer.
And all that other stuff.
Steam sales, Switch ports, that was a big thing. Enter the Gungeon is another game that I profiled in Press Reset that had that same kind of crazy ripple effect, where they sold more copies of their game like on some patch 2 years after launch than they did at release on day one. So yes, it's a weird phenomenon, but it's very interesting. Yeah,
it strikes me as a good one too, that they don't have to like obsessively chase just the launch sales, because after that no one's ever going to talk about this game again, because they probably will. Like, there is a chance that you could have a much longer tail now.
Yep, that's the appeal of quote unquote service games. All right, next question. Here is Evan. Evan says, hi, after laughing my ass off during May 10th's mailbag episode, specifically Kirk's Dishonored Bing, I had to ask, Maddie and Jason, do you ever feel envious of Kirk's omnipotent ability to invoke the Bing? Do you ever wish you could satisfy the Bing? It's kind of a podcasting cheat code if you really think about it. Kirk, keep binging. As producer, you've earned the ability to circumvent the constraints of space and time in podcasting. Bonus question. If Jason or Maddie could bing, what would they call it? I would call it zooming out. I would come in and be like, zooming out for a second.
So it would just be you saying, zoom out really fast.
Yeah, zooming out. Zoom out.
Jason here, after the fact.
Oh boy. I don't know. I guess mine would end with bye. Maybe like a backwards version of me saying bye.
Ebe.
Hi. What if it was hi and bye? Hi, it's Maddie here. I have something to add.
No, if I say hi, that's
too
normal. And I want people to know that something weird is happening, which is that I'm binging in, which is what it's called.
I see. So a reverse bye.
You could say bye from the future.
Yeah. Bye from the future.
Okay.
And then at the end, I say bye from the past. To answer the question, Evan, I'm not jealous of it. I'm extremely grateful to Kirk for editing our show. This is not a bit. This is serious compassion here. I'm very grateful to him, and I think that he deserves the Bing as a reward. He gets to always look slightly
Right,
cooler
that's the
than
treat.
we do by having the owner's task of editing the show.
Even though half the time I'm binging to like correct a mistake that I made, but it is nice to be able to correct my own mistakes. That is
Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
but that's the thing. You can do that, and Kirk and Maddie and I have to live with our mistakes.
Or sometimes Jason or I will desperately remember something we said like the next day, like in the sort of grace period before the show is out, and we'll like send a frantic DM and be like, can you edit that out, or like Bing in and be like, it was actually
That's
this other
true.
person. Periodically do that. I try not to do that to you very often because it's annoying, and I try to instead be right the first time. But
That's true. Yeah. And I think for a little behind the scenes, I think with that kind of thing, it's more often just we edit something out.
Yes.
Like one of you will say,
true.
actually, I realized like I said this thing and that's actually, I credited the wrong person and I'll just trim it out. Where when I'm editing, I'm here. So I'm like, it's easier for me to be like, well, I can just record something right now that actually like explains this a little bit more or like adds the right name. So I'm more likely to bing in about my own stuff, which is kind of an advantage. But yeah, I guess that's the privilege of editing.
Kirk secretly edits out all the fighting and screaming.
yeah, of course.
and
Well, that
cursing.
goes without saying. People got to
Yes,
see that at the
definitely.
live show. We got to see
The
raw,
nasty stuff.
unfiltered,
the
Right.
live
triple
show, you
clip.
get to see the real dirt, the real juice of it all. All right, Kirk, what's the next question?
All right, this comes from Matt. Matt writes, "Hi, gang. I'm a big fan of all things BioWare, and one day a few years ago, while impatiently awaiting more Dragon Age and Mass Effect, I wondered what Drew Karpatian was up to. I was curious what one of the lead writers of some of my favorite games and some great Star Wars novels was up to, and according to his Wikipedia page, it seems that he's been attached to Archetype Entertainment, an internal studio of Wizards of the Coast started by ex-BioWare folks. This got me very excited. A few years on, there hasn't been a peep out of this studio except for some hiring ads on social media. Is it normal for a studio founded 4 years ago not to have announced a project yet? Is this a bad sign for the studio? Or is this a case of no news actually really is no news?
It depends. I think the answer is both. Like, it can be bad news, and it can also just be like par for the course. It really depends on a lot of different factors. EA just announced like this week or last week, they just announced a new Black Panther game in development at like one of their studios, new studio in Seattle. That game, we will probably go another 4 years without hearing anything about it, but they just announced it for hiring purposes, and like, it's just easier these days to be like, come work on a Black Panther game than it is to be like, come work on an unannounced superhero game. And also you can stave off leaks by just announcing it yourselves. So with this Archetype situation, I don't know. I mean, nothing I can share as far as like reported stuff on what's going on over there, but I don't think you can really jump to a conclusion either way. Like, sometimes the studio is just quiet because things are proceeding normally and development takes a while, and sometimes it could be because they had to reboot their vision 3 times and they're almost out of money and who knows what's going on. I will say
Wizards of the
that
Coast is
there's
so mad at acquiring them, and it's just nothing but infighting. And
you
knows?
never know. I will say though, there's one studio called Bonfire Studios that was started by some ex-Blizzard folks that was announced in 2016 and still has not said anything about the game they're working on 7 years later. So there are longer cases than 4 years, I will say.
that seems kind of weird. 7 years is a long time.
It
But
is a
I don't know
long time.
anything. I have no information. To me, 4 years, I'm like, it's nothing. That's just like 2 years just to freak out about the fact that you have a new studio and you don't work at BioWare anymore. And then another 2 to be like, what are we doing here?
Well, I wonder how many of those people came from Anthem and were like, let's just chill for the next couple of years.
like,
while
I
we
just
figure
need a
out-
minute.
Spitball. Yeah,
Just
like,
need a
just
minute.
You know,
around,
it's so funny.
try to
Something
remember
that
why
I
we
hear,
like working on games ever. Yeah.
Maddie, I swear to God, I hear about this all the time, and it still just blows my mind. But like, any game developer who's listening to this will just be furiously nodding their head. There is literally, because you work so hard to get a game out of the door, and like, oftentimes you're crunching, you're working extra hours, you're not seeing your family. There will literally be times when the entirety of a game development studio studio is just like fucking off at the office all day, like coming in 4 hours a day, like playing games at work, like literally doing nothing for months, if not like a couple of years at a time. And then it creates this vicious cycle where it's like, oh, now we have to ship a game. Now we have to crunch like crazy again. And that was a huge thing at BioWare, so I wouldn't be shocked if that was a huge thing as at ex-BioWare studios too.
I have no inside information, but stop playing Tears of the Kingdom, Drew. Cut it out.
True. Speaking of Tears of the Kingdom, Maddie, next question.
Sure. This is from Joe, who writes, "Hello, Triple Click. Lately, while playing Tears of the Kingdom, I found myself wanting to use my Ultra Hand ability on rocks, trees, and logs as I drive by them. This has happened in the past with a game like The Witness, where I was finding patterns of a circle and line path leading off of it in my everyday life. I'm curious, what games have you played that you've found have seeped into your real-world experiences?" I can go ahead and say Tears of the Kingdom has already done that for me as well. Like, I took out the trash the other night and saw a weed that looked exactly like a Hyrule herb, which is one of the many cooking ingredients that I prize. And I seriously was like, oh, I gotta stop and pick that. And like, I didn't actually stop, but I was like, I've lost my mind. I lost my mind.
Yeah, you start seeing the patterns of that game, like the Korok seed patterns.
Yes,
You'll see like, oh, there's a rock in front of that tree, and that tree is in the middle of two other trees. It's very symmetrical. I should go pick up that rock and just have that.
These rocks are in a circle, and this other one's over here. What's, is that anything? Oh, it's just a statue park? I see. Interesting.
Right. I'm going to put apples in front of all of these statues, and then maybe something will happen. The thing that always happens to me, Zelda style, is the paraglider. When I'm standing up on top of a hill, I invariably will think, oh man,
yeah, if only.
If I could just paraglider down from here to to all the way over there. Like if I'm hiking, or when we were up in the rainforest in Australia, in Queensland, there were some really amazing views, and it feels already like you're in this really heightened location, and just looking down and thinking, oh man, I really want to paraglide all the way back down to where we started.
Have you ever tried it?
Yeah.
No, well, I don't have a paraglider, so
too bad.
I should probably get a paraglider. But then I think it would totally just work. I can just jump high enough,
and you'll definitely be strong
off of
enough to hang onto it the whole time. Your stamina won't run out. Don't worry about it.
I feel like I've never seen anyone use a paraglider in real life. I feel like I've only seen that in games.
Oh, I sure have. But usually people are strapped in like on belay. Like usually they're not like Link just whipping it out, like flying around. They're usually like tied to it. So
or they're like hang gliding.
Right, hang gliding. Yeah, I've seen. Or like
that's how big it actually needs to be to like allow a person to do what Link does with a paraglider.
Yeah. Got it. That's what I was picturing.
Bigger.
That's it. My answer to this question is in 2013, when I was playing Grand Theft Auto 5 for a while, I would walk out to the streets of New York City and be like, I should take that car.
Seeing the lights, I definitely get that Tetris effect, whatever that sort of cross synthesis, like synesthesia thing that you get from playing a lot of games. It happens with Tetris because that's like when you really have just played so much Tetris, you start to see it in your brain. But in terms of seeing it in the world, the way that cars move when driving, it does kind of like Grand Theft Auto sort of overlays onto that. Not in a like, I want to kill everybody and steal cars, but just in a like, the cars are moving in a way that makes me feel like I'm in a video game. And that definitely happens to me sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next question. I will read this next one, right? It's my turn.
Yes.
That sounds right.
Hello, this is from Mass. Hello, Triple Click. My name is Mass, and I have a burning question for you. What makes a game, or any piece of media for that matter, more appealing to the feminine side of people? Or more reductively, I could ask, how to make games for girls? I have this great friend, and we play a bunch of video games together. His girlfriend also plays a bunch of video games, and we got to talking a while ago what makes games and media appealing to either the masculine or the feminine side of people. Well, my friend's girlfriend had this instinctual sense for which games she thought were made for girls. I don't remember the full list, but I remember The Sims being one of those that she thought were leaning more towards the feminine. We couldn't pin it down, but maybe you can.
Easier said than done, Mass.
Definitely.
Yeah, can we pin this one down? Guys, what is
I appreciate the general framing of this question, right? That it's
sweet.
more like
more
the feminine or masculine side,
Yeah.
sort of looking at these broad
Side of people. I like this because we all like all these types of things now.
Yeah, right. Like,
Yeah, well, so
of
I
everyone.
think that the broad disclaimer here needs to be that if you're talking in like these kind of broad sweeping statements, you have to be like, okay, I mean, there are games, every game is going to appeal to people
someone,
of all
yeah.
stripes. But it is true. I mean, The Sims definitely has a larger percentage of female players than, like, I don't know, Call of Duty. One thing that I think is interesting is that I think a lot of games that are more social tend to appeal to more, I guess, our feminine sides a little bit more, or at least female players more. Games where you're talking to people.
Yeah,
interacting with
I mean,
people.
I remember people back in the day used to be very surprised by how many women played World of Warcraft. I mean, these days I feel like we're all like, well, of course they do. But, you know,
Yeah.
20 years ago, that was very shocking to people. Like, what? They do? And it's like, well, yeah, because it's a very social game and you get to hang out with your friends group, and it's very feminine coded pursuits, talking to your friends on the phone all day, shooting the shit. And oh yes, we're also collaborating on a group project together, which is killing this boss. And like that is actually kind of a feminine pursuit. And there's nothing shameful or wrong about that. It's just society will tell you there is, but it's not, which is part of why I like this framework as like, oh, we all have feminine and masculine sides, and World of Warcraft lets you embrace some of the feminine sides of yourself. And those are the collaborative, teamworky sides. And it's also kind of a funny question for us to answer, because I feel like oftentimes I end up playing the masculine lone wolf video games, and then like Jason will be in here being like, here's why I like Final Fantasy VI. It's because Tara's in it. And I don't know. That's why I like our show.
It's true. Yeah, I think the art style of World of Warcraft is also a big reason that that game is appealing to like many demographics. I think the kind of stylized, cartoony.
Well, that and Diablo, you could play as either gender. And I mean, we talked about this a lot on the Diablo episode. Like, that was a huge deal to me, was just the fact that you could play as a female character and it was equally balanced.
But in general, I think, I don't know, thinking about my wife as kind of my go-to example test subject for games. And I know that she prefers games that tend to have like cuter art styles. She was really into Stardew Valley, which another game that I think is super appealing to women. She's really into Tears of the Kingdom, and I think one of the reasons is because the art style is very welcoming. Even the harsher stuff is very stylized and very visually pleasing to look at.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about this just sort of removed from any gender binary or any association of any sort of gender traits with any game traits, just because, I don't know, the more I play games, the more I appreciate all these different things about them.
Yeah.
And you can see why, for various reasons, different types of games might appeal to different groups. But I don't know, play them enough and you just start to see there are games where you kind of build things up and maintain them. We've talked about tend and befriend as a kind of style of game. And I think a style of game that's seen as popular with women or more popular. But any game where you're sort of maintaining something, you know, Animal Crossing is kind of the ultimate example. It was just when Animal Crossing, what was it, New Horizons? Was that the one that came out during the pandemic, the most recent one? So when that was out, what was so calming about that was just this ability to like grow and build and elaborate on something and watch it kind of grow. And then you are tending a garden and befriending people. So it is actual tending and befriending. But there are elements of that in so many games that we play where you're kind of, you know, you're building up your character in certain ways, or you have a homestead. You know, we love a homestead mission, and it's fun it's fun to feel like you're going out into the world and you're doing adventures or quests and you're bringing stuff back. For your homestead. I actually my tabletop group just started playing Frosthaven, which is the sequel to Gloomhaven, this extremely elaborate tabletop game that we've played a bunch. Frosthaven seems really cool. It's a lot like Gloomhaven, but, you know, it adds some stuff. And one of the big changes is that in Frosthaven, you're not just building up your character, you're building up this town. So there's like a whole new town building mechanic on top of it. So in the first Gloomhaven, you were always kind of out having adventures. You're working together. It's like a team building thing, but you're kind of just leveling up your character. And it never really goes anywhere beyond that. But in Frosthaven, it's like you get loot, you can use that to build up the town. And so suddenly you're kind of doing this, I don't know, more collaborative town building thing that feels a little bit more Animal Crossing-ish, I guess, or a little more of a tend and befriend. So anyways, I don't know, there are elements of that in in a lot of different games.
Yeah, so it's an interesting discussion point that obviously is well beyond the scope of this particular mailbag. So let's get on to the next question. Kirk, you're up.
All right, I will ask the next question, but we have had a bit of a development while recording. Maddie Myers has lost power and internet, so she just dropped out of the call while we were in the middle of recording.
R.I.P. Maddie.
R.I.P. Maddie. We're close enough to the end that I think we're just going to carry on. So this is going to be a throwback, Jason, to the origins of the show, to the split screen days.
Oh, fun times. Okay.
Let's see if you and I can carry a podcast, just the two of
we
us.
Can't. We just can't do it anymore. No, we need Maddie.
We totally lost our touch.
We need
without Maddie. There's just
the third part of the Triforce.
Right. We keep awkwardly pausing and just waiting for her to chime in. And then
we just totally forget English. Like, we just can't talk anymore.
Yeah, it all falls apart. Okay, we have one more question. It comes from Colton. Colton asks, I am playing Final Fantasy IX for the first time with some of my friends, and they're very into classic JRPGs and have been loving it so far. It's not my normal cup of tea, but I'm trying to just have something that we share. If you don't know the game, the port has cheat codes that you can enable at any time. My question is, what are your thoughts on cheats playing through the game for the first time? I turned one on and instantly started enjoying the game more, but my buddies think that I'm only cheating myself. Do you all agree? I just want your thoughts.
No, I think that your buddies are nonsense. Your buddies are full of it, and cheating is super fun. When I was a kid, I used to I remember all the Blizzard games just had cheat codes built in, and I would play with them all the time. That's how I beat all these games that I wouldn't have been able to beat otherwise. And especially when you're playing older games that were designed for a different era, have totally different. Final Fantasy IX, the random encounter rate is so crazy that you're almost. You're ruining it. You're making it a worse experience for yourself unless you turn off random encounters or make yourself a god or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, you definitely, if you're using specific kinds of cheats, you definitely will make the experience worse for yourself if you're playing a game that is designed to be most enjoyed with a specific, by challenging you and tasking your skills. If you play, The Witness, and you just have a guide to all the codes.
Puzzles.
You auto solve all the puzzles, and it's kind of pointless. But I think people should play games however the heck they want to play.
Yeah, I mean, even moving away from, I think, making it worse for yourself. You're just if you can really alter the experience that you're having, and that can be good or bad or just different. You can have a very different experience when playing the game. I mean, we used all kinds of modifications when we played through Final Fantasy VI, and that was fine. But really, I mean, I think, Colton, you answer your own question, both when you say that you are having a lot of fun playing it the way that you're playing it. Well, that's great. I mean, you should be having fun. But then also, if your friends literally said to you that you're only cheating yourself, they should know that is a meme that was making fun of people who say that. That's how sort of how wrong-headed that method of thinking is. I mean, if you're having fun, you're having fun. So I think, do whatever.
So I think here we should distinguish between cheats and kind of accelerators or modifiers, like mods even. There's a big difference between setting yourself to invulnerable so you never have to think during combat, and using fast forward or turning off random encounters or doing something that just makes a game that was released 30 years ago feel more palatable today. I think there's a big difference between those two.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, yeah, it all kind of relates to accessibility and difficulty settings and all of these different things. And sort of the more options that are built into games, the better, really. It just seems like there's really nothing wrong with any of that. So doing that retroactively on much older games that had usually terrible accessibility options and none of that stuff built in, that seems great. So for older JRPGs, that's a really cool way to play it. And I think it's really cool that you're playing through an old JRPG just to have something to share with your friends, because having done that a lot and shared that with my friends on this show, it is a fun thing to do. Even when the game is annoying, it's fun to have something to sort of share.
And I'm sure we'll be doing it again in the near future with certain remasters and remakes, maybe even Final Fantasy IX, which is going to get a remake in the near
That is true.
future.
That's a pretty cool game. I like FF9.
It is
That's
a good
fun game. I played that one because of you.
Did you finish it?
No, I played like a chunk. No, I definitely didn't finish it. Those games are all too long. But
That's
I played
it's gonna be a
first
fun
act, maybe.
a fun remake to play through. And also Final Fantasy Tactics, the remaster. That'll be fun to play through. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was laughing because it's hard to imagine an ethos more like diametrically opposed to Triple Click than like, no, you must play the game the way
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you cannot use any sort of modifiers. Yeah, man. I was just thinking, I was looking up Baldur's Gate 2 because I'm kind of prepping my mind for Baldur's Gate 3. And I was looking up some old articles I wrote. And I wrote this whole article about like all these mods you should use if you're playing Baldur's Gate 2. Man, mods are awesome. All right. Why don't we take a break and then we'll be back with one more thing.
Hey, Max Fun listeners, this is Cameron Esposito. I'm a stand-up comic, actor, writer, best-selling author, and podcaster. I got a great show called Query where I interview LGBTQ plus luminaries across, a bunch of fields. People in entertainment, astronauts, musicians, rock stars. I am bringing the show to maximum fun. You can listen right now, and I am so happy to be on this network. We have new episodes out every Monday. You can listen at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's official. Max Fun has become a co-op.
We're now a worker-owned network of artist-owned shows supported directly by you.
Thanks to supporters and listeners like you, Max Fun will always be a place where employees have a say.
Thanks to you, shows can continue to partner with an independent, values-driven network.
Thanks to you, we're able to carry on our commitment to our shows and the community we've grown together.
Learn more about what becoming a co-op means for us and you at MaximumFun.org/co-op. That's MaximumFun.org/COOP.
And we are back. Kirk, Ghost Maddy, it is time for one more thing. You and I will do it in person, Kirk, and maybe Maddie will somehow appear. Maybe she will apparate to
Maybe
give her
she will. We'll hear from Ghost Maddy at some point here. Who knows when?
Kirk, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. My one more thing is a show that Emily and I just finished watching last night called Jury Duty. That's on Amazon Prime, that I think you can also watch on Amazon, like Freevee, the thing that has ads. But if you have Prime, you can just watch it without ads. And I'm guessing a lot of listeners have heard about it at this point because it's been fairly buzzy. I've seen people talking about it. I certainly heard about it from, buzz from different people and decided to start it. And I'm really glad I watched it because it's super good. So this is I'm trying to think. I think Wikipedia describes it as the genre is reality television hoax,
it's a rehearsal,
which is accurate.
It's a Nathan Fielder's rehearsal like.
It is. It's nowhere near as uncanny and sort of, it's not as provocative as that. It's more of a feel good show. But it is really, really good. And I really liked it. So the two creators of the show are Gene Stupnitsky and Lee Eisenberg, who are both veterans of The Office. So the American Office, that is. So it kind of has some of that DNA. It's a documentary, though, as you learn, it's a mockumentary, but it is shot like a documentary. It's a really feel-good show in the end, which is the thing I really liked about it. And it kind of just has some similar DNA with The Office. Probably more that than something, like Nathan For You or The Rehearsal. That Nathan Fielder stuff is a little weirder, a little more interested in making you, the viewer, uncomfortable. So the premise of this show is they're making a documentary about being a juror or having jury duty. I actually just had jury duty in Portland, so it was timely for me. I had to go down and just sit in a chair for 2 days. So in this case, though, everybody goes down. They all have to sit there. It's in California, I think like near Sacramento maybe, or somewhere near Los Angeles. And the twist is that nobody there is actually a real person. They're all actors. The judge is an actor. There's going to be a whole civil trial. There's a defendant and a plaintiff. They're all actors. Everything is fake except for one guy, a guy named Ronald Gladden, who's a normal person and thinks that he's just going to jury duty and that they're making a documentary about like normal people's lives in jury duty. So it's a bunch of actors and this one guy. And then the show, which is pretty short, it's like maybe 8 half-hour episodes or so, is just them trying to carry on this whole like trial and all of these shenanigans that happen behind the scenes. They wind up getting sequestered. All of this stuff happens, and they're kind of just messing with this guy over the course of 8 episodes. The thing is, that sounds kind of mean when I describe it. And there is, I guess, kind of a meanness to it, because they really are like pranking this guy for 2 weeks or something. And that would mess with you. You know, they tell him at the end and they kind of reveal how they made the whole thing. It would really mess with your sense of reality. But Ron Gladden is a wonderful guy. And the kind of twist of the show is that it turns out that whatever they throw at him, like whatever kind of uncomfortable characters or weird circumstances or like awkward people who are coming up and kind of trying to get him to do different things, he always reacts just like in a really nice and supportive way. So as the show goes on, you just keep seeing this guy's like kind of wonderful humanity shine through over and over again, which is really fun. And the other really fun thing about this show is James Marsden is in it, the actor from like Sonic and Cyclops and I don't know, from Westworld, and he's playing himself. So kind of the joke is that James Marsden is on this jury, or he's an alternate on the jury, and he's playing a like terrible version of himself. So he's this really self-involved asshole. He's always talking about how cool and famous he is. And like, you know, he'll be like reading, like talking into his phone, and then he'll get off and look at everyone and be like, that was my agent, you know, for like a big role. I can't tell you about it, but it's like, it's really big. It's really exciting. Like he's like that guy, and everyone's totally over him and doesn't think he's cool. So it's really funny to watch him, who I get the sense he's like a really wonderful dude in real life, playing this huge asshole. And then also funny to watch Ron sort of interacting with James Marsden and like this alternate version of James Marsden. That's a really fun part of it.
Does he know who James Marsden is?
He does, and it's fun because he kind of does, but he also like, because James Marsden is like that level of famous where, you know, if you're like us or something, you watch everything, you like know who James Marsden, you'd be like, oh shit, that's James Marsden. And he's way too good looking to just be a normal guy, but also he's not Tom Cruise or whatever.
Right.
Like
he's not like
mega
A-list
famous
celebrity. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's funny.
Right.
That's funny. Oh, I want to watch this. Oh man, I'm excited.
It's really good. Just to see a normal guy just be like, oh yeah, you're like Cyclops or whatever. Sure. Like I kind of know who you are.
Yeah.
Like Marsden sort of wants him to get more excited. So anyways, it's really, really good. And yeah, I don't know. I recommend it. It winds up, I could have watched like 4 more episodes after they reveal it to him, where they're all sitting around and just talking with him and being themselves, because you get to see all these people like they were playing characters and now they're just being normal people, and like get to see him sort of hanging out with all of them. That's kind of the best part of the show. Like I would have watched even more of that, but it's definitely worth watching the whole thing. So yeah, that's Jury Duty. It's on Amazon and Amazon Freevee, and yeah, I think you'll really dig it.
Awesome. All right, Ghost Maddy, you are up.
Hi, or bye from the future. I did not think I would have to use that so soon. It's Maddie with a one more thing. From a spooky, dark apartment where the power went out. How am I recording this, you may very well ask? Well, some outlets are still working for now, but Eversource has helpfully texted us about an hour after this happened, saying that the outage is going to continue for the next 2 hours. So I might be interrupted partway through recording this wave file for Kirk. I don't know. But the spookiness is appropriate because my one more thing this week is called the Werewolf Experiment. It is a escape room in a box. It's a tabletop escape room that has become yet another one of me and Dina's date night adventures. We're still playing tabletop escape rooms, and this one is very, very fun. It is an escape room in a box that is clearly intended for something more like a 6-player party, but you can still play it with 2 players, which we obviously did do. It is set up such that you have to do a series of discrete puzzles, and then once you've solved each of the discrete puzzles, you kind of get to the final solution of the game. So for example, if you had 3 couples, you'd give one couple one puzzle, like there's sort of a crossword puzzle, and then you give another couple the word search, and then another one would get a third puzzle. I can't remember all the puzzles off the top of my head, but crossword puzzles and word searches are in there. And then you get to the end, and the ending solution is, of course, the antidote to being a werewolf, because this is a werewolf-themed tabletop game. I don't know that I'd call it an escape room. As soon as you open the box, you are
quote unquote infected by this werewolf virus created by a mad scientist. And then you have to escape the prison of being a werewolf, which is actually a pretty cool prison, if you ask me. But we escaped it anyway. We got the antidote slowly but surely. The main thing that I really liked about the werewolf experiment, the puzzles are fine. They're cute. They're not super difficult. That's not what I'm going to compliment. The writing of this game is very good. It's very funny. There's a female mad scientist who turns into a werewolf. She experiments on herself, and you're going through her notes, and there are these very comedic interplays between her somewhat sane mad scientist self, who writes in sort of like normal courier typed script, and then her werewolf self, who crosses things out and is kind of scratching things over with werewolfy handwriting. And the interplay between those characters is really fun. There's a lot of jokes in this. Most of the puzzles that you're solving are actually just to complete the set of notes, which give you more jokes. Like it's not as though you're winning anything in this game really, other than just a little more story, which is mostly more comedy, which I thought was a really interesting way to frame a puzzle game, a tabletop puzzle game. I really recommend it if you like this kind of thing. It's pretty different from the other escape rooms we've done, which have been kind of hit or miss for me in terms of like plot, pacing, especially comedy writing. The Clue board game I mentioned a few weeks back was definitely trying to be funny, but I didn't really think it landed. This game, actually really cute, really fun. Definitely would be a fun party game for multiple people if you like that kind of thing. So it's called The Werewolf Experiment, Escape Room in a Box. It's a game. All right, that's my one more thing. I'm so frazzled as I record this because I've been running up and down the stairs to the fuse boxes. Found where my fuse boxes are tonight. That happened. Now I know where they are. That's not what the problem was, but now I know where they are. Back to you, Jason and Kirk. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Ghost Maddy.
That was so interesting, whatever it was
whatever
she said.
All right, I will go last. My one more thing is I have built a new PC.
You sure have.
Technically, I upgraded my PC, but since I upgraded just about everything, it is essentially a new PC. So
it's the PC of Theseus, is what you called it.
Exactly, right? Exactly. The PC case of Theseus is really it. So I last built a PC in January of 2018, so about 5.5 years ago. So it was due. My PC was getting a little.
You were using a 1080 graphics
Yes, I was
card,
using a 1080. I was using a really old motherboard because I inherited that from like Gizmodo. It was like a used motherboard that they had lying around, and a CPU. I think it was used or something like that. It was an old machine at this point. I was like, this feels like a good time. Baldur's Gate 3 is about to come out. I'm gonna play the shit out of that. Diablo 4 keeps crashing on my machine. You know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna upgrade everything. And so I was talking to you, and you gave me some recommendations. So I got a 4070 Ti, which was like an egregious $800 to buy, but
ridiculously expensive for how good it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fast, but it should not cost as much.
I figure it'll last me another 5 years, so it's worth the investment at this point. Especially because, like, why save $200 if I'm just gonna have to upgrade again in a couple of years anyway? And bought all this stuff. I was really excited. I haven't like really tooled around other than replacing the power supply. I haven't tooled around with my PC in years. I was like, it'll be like riding a bike again, and I'll get to get in that zone again. And so here are a couple of observations and kind of anecdotes from my PC upgrading adventure, which was really just my second time building a PC. So first of all, I forgot how exhilarating the process is when you're sitting there. It's like a few things that make time fly by for me, the way that like getting in there and messing around with the PC did. Like
that's true. Yeah,
it was really a time warp, and it was the type of thing where like I have to do it. My first one I built before I had kids. Now that I have kids, I have to do it when they are in bed. So I started working on it at like 8, and suddenly I look up and it's like 10 p.m. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? It's literally just flew by. I had an unfortunate experience because, like I mentioned before, my motherboard previously was very old, and it didn't have quite the same GPU latch latch that this new one did. And so I put in my GPU pretty late in the process, because the GPU is one of the last things you do on your brand new PC. And then I realized I put it in the slot where it was blocking some ports, and I wanted to move it to a different slot. And I guess I didn't realize that the GPU latch needs to be unlatched before you take out your GPU, because it kind of automatically unlatched, or there was no equivalent GPU latch in my previous one. So I'm lifting out my GPU, and suddenly I hear this like sickening crunch, and I pull it out, and the port like from the motherboard went with it, right? Like the casing that guards all the pins. So the GPU fortunately was fine, because it just ripped out the kind of the attachment part, and suddenly I see all these pins that are bent on the motherboard. I'm like, well, guess I am waiting another 3 days for an Amazon to send me a new motherboard replacement before I can get back to this. And I was so frustrated, because I was like, oh man, I feel like I know what I'm doing. I got all these things right. At first, it lit up because like I had some issue because like the motherboard lit up that my RAM wasn't working, and I realized I hadn't pushed down the RAM hard enough. And I was like, oh yeah, you have to push down the RAM.
Seat the RAM.
You have to push. You always have to push it a little bit harder than you think. But I remember all the like little annoying things, like having to get those screws in the corner of the motherboard, even though they're being like basically blocked by your heatsink. Or the tiny little pins that you have to like maneuver the reset button and the power button into, and you have to remember the exact order because it's never quite labeled right. You always have to consult the manual. All the little like weird, fun little things about building a PC. So then my dining room was taken over by all these PC parts for the entire weekend, much to my daughter's dismay. She was like, can I paint? I was like, sorry, sweetie, you can't paint in here.
It's just gotta wait. Daddy needs a new PC.
And then on Monday, was like staring at the Amazon tracking all day, waiting for it to arrive. It arrived, got out there, assembled a new PC, and I was really excited. I was like, man, this is going to work this time. Doing everything right. I already knew how it all fit in because I'd done it previously. So it took me less than an hour to get it all back together. Got the RAM in, got the CPU in, got that frightening CPU latch down, got the thermal paste on there, got the cooler on there, got those stupid fan clips, which are a real pain, those annoying, like, pointy fan clips that you have to attach to your heatsink. And then I have had a speaker on my motherboard for a long time because anyone who's built a PC knows you want to hear that little beep when your computer posts, when your computer turns on. And so I finally got it all assembled, and I pushed the button, and there was no beep. And I was like, oh God, this is going to be a saga. What am I going to have to do?
Sometimes it's just the power button and it's not quite connected to the motherboard. Right?
And then I looked over the monitor and it was turned on, and it was like, Windows needs to reset. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Turns out the speaker just doesn't work anymore for some reason.
Okay.
Or maybe the speaker is plugged in wrong, but whatever. Now the computer posted, and I got Windows restarted and reset Windows and started installing things, and it all worked fine. All the drivers got on there, and it works perfectly, except the speaker and the monitor doesn't beep up anymore. It doesn't beep anymore when I post it, which I can totally live with that. So that was a fun coda to the saga. And now I got my computer running. I started downloading some games, downloaded Cyberpunk and Diablo.
Hell yeah.
I'm running
some ray tracing.
You will be pleased to hear that I'm running StarCraft 2 on ultra settings.
I'm definitely running that game pretty flawlessly.
StarCraft 2. And I am just like so pumped for Baldur's Gate 3, like ready to play the shit out of that at like 100 frames per second at like ultra high end settings. So I'm very excited about that. And yeah, it's an exhilarating process. I forgot how simultaneously like frustrating and fun the process of building a PC is. I was thinking in my head, like, if I have to go through the whole process of like assembling this thing a second time and it still doesn't work, I'm just gonna friggin' ship it out to like PC Warehouse or something and get someone to do it for me.
You do this.
Because I mean, when I first built it, I didn't have kids. Like I mentioned, when you have kids, your time becomes a much different experience. You can't like spend an entire Saturday being like, I'm just gonna dedicate this day to like tinkering away at my PC anymore, at least until the kids are older. My kids are too young for that. I have to be monitoring them constantly. So it changes a little bit when you have kids, but still super just a rewarding experience, and I'm very excited to play high-end games on this new machine.
Yeah, we basically have the same PC now, so it'll be nice to know basically that anything that I can play, you can play. And yeah, man, PC games look pretty good. I'm psyched for when you see what Cyberpunk looks like now that it's running pretty well on a good card. It really does look pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Well, I'm gonna wait to play it until the new patch and DLC come out in a couple months.
I started it a little bit and then realized it's gonna be like super different in just a month.
It's gonna feel much different. I downloaded Red Dead 2 and was messing around with that a little bit. It looks phenomenal.
Yeah, man. Ridiculous
also
looking game.
on ultra settings. And yeah, it's exciting. I should say, by the way, I know people out there might have heard like $800 and they're just like still on sticker shock at that. For me and my job, it's a little bit of a different prospect than your normal person. I can write this off of my taxes and like, I like you, both of us get a lot of free games, which makes it easier to justify dropping $800 on a graphics card. And also just like needing to play games for work and stuff. It is a different expense. If I were a normal person, I might not be dropping $800 on a graphics card.
Yeah, it's unconscionable. Like Nvidia's price, like I just feel like they're price gouging. Like the price of these graphics card is just totally ridiculous. It just
crazy.
Should not cost this much. It's gone up so much just ever since the crypto boom. It really sucks. Like it's a bad feeling giving a company that much money when they just, I don't know, man. That really bums me out.
But then again, if you have Nvidia stock, it's like doubled from $200 to $400 this year. It's pretty. So Nvidia shareholders, enjoy. I will say though, a couple other things were cheaper than I expected. Like SSDs now are much cheaper than they were when I last built a computer. Like when I last built a computer, it was like, I don't know, $150 or something for a 500 gigabyte solid state drive, and now it's $200 for a 4 terabyte solid state drive, which is cool.
Yeah, and those M2 drives are fast as hell too. Like that's the only storage I have in the PC that I built, and it's great.
Yeah, I still have my little spinny disc thing. I just left it in the case unplugged because I was like, whatever, I can just I don't need this slot for anything. I'll just leave it there.
The world has moved on.
Exactly. From these M2s. Also, the new motherboards. I don't know if you've messed around with the new motherboard yet, or if you're still getting one, but it has a whole new setup for the M2s. There's like a case on top and a new latch thing. It's pretty cool.
Little heat sinks built in for keeping them cool.
Oh, yeah. On top
they're
of them.
nice.
Yeah, they are nice. And then, other things weren't quite as bad. It's just the GPU that is really just sickeningly expensive these days. But other things, especially if you buy used, you can get at decent prices. All right, that is it for this week's episode. Kirk.
Yeah, that's it.
Ghost Maddy. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.
Bye.
Triple Click is produced by Jason Schreier, Maddie Myers, and me, Kirk Hamilton. I edit and mix the show and also wrote our theme music. Our show art is by Tom DJ. Some of the games and products we talked about on this episode may have been sent to us for free for review consideration. You can find a link to our ethics policy in the show notes. Triple Click is a proud member of the Maximum Fun Podcast Network, and if you like our show, we hope you'll consider supporting us by becoming a member at MaximumFun.org/join. Find us on Twitter at TripleClickPod, send email to tripleclick@MaximumFun.org, and find a link to our Discord in the show notes. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported directly
by you. Oh, I'm going to keep recording, actually, because it wouldn't be a triple click if there wasn't a sign-off of Maddie Myers saying, bye, bye, bye. Now you have more than one you can use. Use whichever one you want. What a crazy night.